Today is Monday, July 15th, and this is William Michael, the headmaster of the Classical Liberal Arts Academy. Today I'd like to talk about what's wrong, in my opinion, with Catholic colleges and universities, and not just to fuss about the status of Catholic colleges. I'd like to recommend how these problems can quite easily be fixed. And as the headmaster of the academy, working with hundreds and hundreds of students who are going to be going on to study at Catholic colleges and universities, I hope to help to make these improvements that I recommend over time. I'm going to focus especially on Catholic University of America because it's a school that I think is very important. I'm an admirer of Catholic University. I admire it for its history. I admire it for its location. I admire it for its potential. But I really don't think it's living up to its potential. And I think that there are some obvious causes for this. And what I say about Catholic University is probably true of most Catholic colleges and universities. The trouble with these Catholic schools begins with low self-esteem. I think it's safe for me to say that these colleges don't think highly of themselves. Now, I've studied at Rutgers University, which is a great public university, Big Ten university in New Jersey. I've also studied at Harvard University, one of the most famous schools in the world. But this summer, I visited Catholic University with my wife because she's studying in their Master of Catechesis program. And as I visited, talked to professors, met other students, wandered around campus, visited the Basilica, I said to myself, this place is better than Rutgers. It's better than Harvard, but it's not living up to its potential. It just leaves so much on the table. And when I turn and look at the communications of the university, I feel like the university doesn't have any self-esteem, as I said. I feel like it doesn't think it's very good. And it speaks and presents itself in a way that almost admits inferiority. And this is the problem. Catholic colleges need to think of themselves with respect to their potential. And I don't know, maybe the administrators are not very positive. Maybe they're not visionary type leaders. Maybe they're not hard workers. But it seems like they've just accepted a certain status quo, and the university just seems like it's in a survival mode rather than an evangelistic mode, an optimistic, hopeful mode, trusting in God's grace to bring it to the fulfillment of its potential. If we look at the admissions information published by Catholic University, we begin to see this problem of this low self-esteem. The admission acceptance rate for Catholic University, as far as the numbers that I see, is 86%. 86%. That means that if 100 students apply to Catholic University, the university is admitting 86 out of those 100 students. That's not selective. They're basically accepting everyone who applies. Now, if you think of the virtues of Catholic University, if you think of the fact that this is the nation's Catholic university, if you think that it's home to the national shrine of the Immaculate Conception, if you think that it's located in the nation's capital, if you think that it's got a beautiful, and I mean beautiful, campus, if you think that it's right around the block from the U.S. Council of Catholic Bishops, Dominican House of Studies is across the street, on and on, so many riches, so many benefits, beautiful buildings, a great history, on and on. I really don't understand why it is that it's not a school in great demand and why it's not a selective university. It should be a school in great demand, and it should be a selective university. But here's what I think has happened to these Catholic colleges, and I think to most colleges in general. K-12 standards have declined. What students know and are capable of at age 18 is not what it was in the past. And this is not just a nostalgic opinion. This can be demonstrated. Students are not graduating from high school with the knowledge or maturity necessary for them to dive into rigorous university studies. The bar falls lower and lower every couple of years. I mean, COVID just sort of knocked it to the floor, but the bar is falling. The students graduating from high school are less mature, less responsible, less generally intelligent than they were in the past. And so what happens is the colleges have to lower their bar to basically pick up where the high schools leave off. So when the high schools decline, colleges have to decline as well, because they've got to be able to serve the students that they get. And when the quality of what they're getting is declining, the front door, as it were, needs to be moved lower and lower and lower. Access needs to be made easier and easier. And so they can't take for granted that students are coming in thinking logically. They can't take it for granted that students already have established personal disciplines. They can't take it for granted that students already have a knowledge of history or the classical liberal arts or literature and so on. And so they've got to teach these subjects at the college level, which really should be already studied at the high school level. Now, what happens is when the college comes down to serve these less educated students, what happens is the colleges appear less and less useful. And so now what we see is our society, this present generation, complaining that colleges and universities, that a college degree is useless. And they say things like, now a master's degree is a bachelor's degree 20 years ago. And so we've got this problem where the quality of the college education is declining. The usefulness of the college degree is declining. The preparedness of college graduates is declining, and yet the cost of college is increasing. So we're paying more and more to actually learn and do less and less. And this is causing the colleges and universities to appear to be a waste of money. And we now have people going around saying college is a waste of money. It's not worth it. But the problem is that colleges are not, they're not acting like colleges. They're not doing what colleges are supposed to do. They're becoming extremely expensive, high schools, and there are more and more problems caused by this. For example, students in college are ages 18 to 24, 25, and so on. Those students at those ages cannot afford to study subjects that should be studied in high school. It's simply not sustainable. They can't afford to spend their early 20s learning high school level content. They can't be learning basic skills as adults. So the colleges now can serve these needs. They can teach the kids basic expository writing. They can teach the kids basic grammar, basic Latin reading, basic research skills, and so on. They can do it, but it's not sustainable. It's too expensive to be learning those skills and those concepts at that level. Now, the problem with this is that it's not the college's fault. The colleges are stuck with the consequences of declining K-12 achievement. The colleges are stuck with students at age 18 receiving an inferior education at the K-12 level. So it's not the college's fault. They have to deal with what they're given. And they're being given less and less. And so they've got to lower their curriculum into high school level studies, but they're doing so with college age students at college costs. And that plan is just not sustainable. And it's true, the degrees are useless. You've got kids learning high school skills and gaining what should be considered high school knowledge, getting a degree for it, and being completely unprepared to go into the market and now work productively and profitably. That degree doesn't signify their readiness for the market. And the reason why is because that degree has become equivalent to a glorified high school diploma. And the reason for that is because the high school diploma has become just absolutely meaningless. It's really just a coupon you get when you're 18 years old. Even easier to get than your driver's license. And so this, I would argue, is the problem in modern college education. And we can't pick on the colleges because it's really not their fault. It's the fault of the K-12 schools. That's where the real problem is. And I'd like to talk about what I think the problem actually is. The way education is supposed to work is that students are supposed to survey all fields of learning. When they're young, they're supposed to survey, they're supposed to receive a general education. And when we look at the subjects that should be included in a general education, we find subjects like the classical liberal arts, philosophy, literature, history, mathematics, natural sciences, fine and performing arts. These general education studies are supposed to be the focus of the K-12 years. And the goal of these studies is to give students as broad a base of knowledge as possible, making them familiar with as much as possible. And we're talking important things, not just trivia, but to give them a broad familiarity with different fields of study, different subjects, different skills, different concepts, different cultures, and so on, so that when they're entering into young adulthood with this broad general education, they know what's available, and they can start to discern their vocations. So the K to 12 years are supposed to be a survey of learning. And this is precisely where the K to 12 schools have become corrupted, because instead of providing a general education, the K to 12 schools are pressuring students to specialize. They're pressuring them to specialize while they're 17 years old. For example, I have a niece, a goddaughter, who attends public schools, and after her freshman year, they started asking her questions about what she wanted to do. And she said she was interested in healthcare. And so they encouraged her to actually enroll in a new school that was dedicated to health careers. And so they sent her to this new school, which is like a magnet school that's focused on career preparation, and it has this health services focus to it. And it's a disaster because she really has no idea what she wants to do. She hasn't even had a chance to survey the landscape of vocational options at this point in her life. And there's this pressure to specialize and start making career choices when kids are 16 and 17 years old, even younger. And K to 12 schools are trying to become vocational training schools instead of general education schools. Now, when I was in school, and I graduated in 1993, so this isn't too long ago, there was a distinction between regular high schools, like the one I went to, and vocational schools. We call, in New Jersey, we call them VOTEC schools. And there were a few VOTEC schools in our county. There was East Brunswick Tech, Piscataway Tech, and so on. But everyone understood that kids who went to those schools were going to those schools to get training in trades, with plans to go into trades when they graduated. And we at the regular schools were getting more of a general education, likely going on to college studies. But today, it's almost as if all of the K to 12 schools are choosing to start specializing, whether it's vocational training or whether it's actually choosing majors or concentrations of study while kids are in high school. And so, again, instead of getting a general education, instead of a broad liberal arts education that prepares them for human life before any sort of specific vocation, they're being pressured to specialize. And what it means to specialize is to devote your attention to a specific field. And so what they're doing in order to accomplish this is that they're raising the bar for specific fields, which requires students to devote more time and attention to those fields. And when they do that at the expense of all other fields of study. Now, this is primarily done in math and science. And there's pressure on kids to specialize. And one of the ways that the specialization manifests itself is through AP classes. So you've got kids when they're freshmen and sophomores in high school beginning to be pressured to choose AP courses in their junior and senior years of high school. They're being pressured to take AP Pre-Calculus, AP Calculus, AP Biology, AP Chemistry, AP Physics, and so on. Which means that the standards for those subjects is being raised to a higher level. And they'll admit this and say that these are basically college level courses. And you can take these college level courses in high school. Well, why would someone want to do that? Well, if you do really well on the AP exam, do really well with your AP classes, you can place out of or test out of college courses. So you're basically getting college credit level work done while you're in high school. And everybody thinks that sounds great. The problem with that is that this is being done at a cost. And as we're pursuing this college level math class or this college level science class, we're doing it at the expense of other subjects. So in order to get this advanced study in, let's say, pre-calculus or chemistry, we're not getting any logic or philosophy or literature or religion. Because when we raise the bar, and again, it sounds good. It sounds good to say we're going to raise the standards for math and science. We're going to raise the bar. We're going to promote more AP level studies, college level studies, dual enrollment. That sounds good if we don't really think about it. But if we think about what the cost is that's allowing those higher standards, it's all of the other subject areas, many of which are significant for the moral formation of students. And so general education at the high school level is being replaced by a specialized education that's ultimately hurting the education of most or nearly all of the high school level students, because very, very few students need to specialize in mathematics or the sciences. And so when we go to, let's say, the Catholic University admissions website, and we look at their information on preparing for admission, we find that they're talking to high school students about AP courses and IB credits and dual enrollment courses and so on. And I don't understand why the colleges are doing this. I don't think it's strategic or philosophical. I think everyone is just doing it because everyone is just doing it. So you've got this Catholic university, which is admitting 86% of its students talking about AP classes in math and science. Why? Why? It's not getting elite students. It's not getting excellent students. It's admitting 86% of the students who are applying. And how many students are choosing to apply to Catholic University of America because they want to devote their lives to mathematics and natural sciences? And so you can just see that the whole message makes no sense. And I'm saying this as a parent and as a K-12 administrator. The message of the Catholic University just makes no sense. If I have an extraordinary math student who's gifted and zealous for mathematics, he is not going to want to go to Catholic University to study math. He's going to want to go to MIT or Stanford. He's going to want to go to an elite technical school or mathematics program or engineering program. He's not going to be looking to a Catholic university. What Catholic kids need is a great Catholic university. And a great Catholic university is not a school that's trying to get kids to study health sciences or natural sciences or mathematics, but philosophy and the liberal arts and theology and history and literature, fine arts, music, and so on. Catholic students need great Catholic universities, and those Catholic universities should be focused on Catholic life, Catholic culture, Catholic studies. Studies and programs that have applications in Catholic life. And I know that some will say things like, oh, well, we need Catholic doctors, we need Catholic accountants, we need Catholic lawyers, and so, but we don't. We really don't need Catholic professionals. We really don't need Catholic craftsmen, Catholic lawyers, Catholic doctors, and so on. The study of the body is not a theological study. And if we're going to emphasize the value of research and experimentation and the employment of the scientific, no, you don't need to be a Catholic to do those things. You don't need to be a Catholic to study science. You don't need to be a Catholic to be a great physician. You don't need to be a Catholic to be a great lawyer. You don't need to be a Catholic to be a great computer programmer. You don't. For example, in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, I contract with website developers, database programmers, all different kinds of consultants and service providers, and I never think of looking for someone who's a Catholic. I look entirely at the quality of the service that they provide. For example, the company that I work with that handles all of the database work for the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, they're located in Bulgaria. And you may wonder, why in the world would you want a company in Bulgaria? And I'll tell you why. When I do my database work, when I've got to deal with stuff like that, technical stuff, it's usually 2 o'clock in the morning. It's stuff that I save for my private time. Well, the programmers in Bulgaria are wide awake and accessible to me when I need them. They're generous, they're skilled, they're responsive, and I never have trouble with any aspect of our website or database work because of this company. I would never concern myself with whether they're Catholics. Now, having said that, I would never hire someone to teach a history class or philosophy or literature or theology unless he was not only a Catholic, but a devout Catholic. And so when we look to Catholic universities, we don't need Catholic universities to try to provide education and training in secular subjects, because secular universities are already doing that, and they're doing that very effectively. A Catholic university is not going to compete with, let's say, a Big Ten university like Rutgers for research, because the Big Ten universities just have so much money. It's not going to compete with Harvard for top-level thinking in secular sciences. And so the Catholic University neglects to do what the world needs it to do. It neglects to do what Catholic students need it to do. And consequently, it becomes irrelevant. What is it actually good for? It's not an extraordinary school. It's not elite intellectually. And much of what it does to try to pretend that it's some kind of secular powerhouse is not effective and of no interest, especially to the top students. So it's not going to get top scientists, top mathematicians, top engineers. They're not going to be interested in going to Catholic University to study those subjects. And I'm talking about Catholic students. You know, for me, for example, as a classicist, if I want to take a course in philosophy or classical studies, I want to go to Harvard because I know the professors. I know they're some of the best professors, especially in philosophy. I know they've got access to the best resources. And yeah, you can make an argument for Catholic University that they've got some great resources in those areas. But they're secular subjects. The liberal arts predate Christianity. I don't need to study logic or rhetoric or classical languages, classical arithmetic or geometry. I don't need to be in a Catholic context, Catholic environment to enjoy those studies. And so the Catholic universities, it's like they're trying to be everything. And when you try to become everything, you end up becoming nothing. If you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one. And what we really need Catholic universities to do is we need them to be great Catholic universities. They need to be the elite places for Catholic studies. And this is what I think they have wrong. They're mediocre schools for secular studies. And because they're mediocre schools for secular studies and they waste a lot of resources and energy and facilities trying to offer those subjects, those fields of study, that they neglect the fields that really should be elite at a Catholic university. I would love to see Catholic University be elite in classical studies. I would like to see it be elite in theology, elite in scholastic philosophy, in church history, and so on. I would like to have students who grow up studying, who want to study philosophy and theology and classical studies and classical languages and history, saying, I want to go to Catholic University because that's the best place for those studies. And being in the nation's capital, with all of those benefits, we should have kids wanting to study political science and government saying, I want to go to Catholic University because the benefits it has of being located in Washington, D.C. are elite. But when we look at the university, I feel, and again, this is my opinion, but I'm a father and a student and a school administrator. When I look at Catholic University, I feel like they're trying to do things that they're not going to do well, and they're neglecting to focus on things that they could do really well. And the net effect of that is that they make themselves unattractive because they end up doing neither well. And so I think that there are a number of problems that these colleges and universities have. And I think it's because of short-sighted and timid leadership. I don't think that the leaders of these Catholic universities have the spirit, the confidence, the courage that it takes to lead a Catholic institution in modern society. I don't think they have the confidence in the wisdom of the church and of the saints and in the virtues of the Catholic faith. I think that they look covetously at secular universities, and they're content to be like them, even though they're not like them. And I think it's also prideful because one of the ways that pride tempts us is by making us want to be good at things that we really have no business being good at. And for example, if you go to the beach, you want to have an attractive body and a nice swimsuit. And then if you go to the basketball court, you want to have nice basketball shoes and you want to be good at basketball. And then if you drive your car into town, you want to have a nice car. And if you do this or do that, you want to be attractive and praised in every context you enter into. And that's just pride. Whereas what real responsible living requires of us is that we understand what is the one thing necessary and we make sure we're good at that. And in order to be good at that one necessary thing, we have to choose to not be good at many things and accept that. And that's one of the fruits of humility, is that we can go to a place and say, I'm not going to be celebrated in this place because this place, what's celebrated here is not what I do. And I'm fine with that. I want to be celebrated by wise men. I want to be celebrated by virtuous people, by holy people. Holy people, virtuous people, wise people, they'll look at what I do and say, wow, that's really great. And they're probably the only people who are going to appreciate what I do, and I'm cool with that. And so pride often leads us to want to be impressive to all different groups of people when really we should not be trying to be impressive to certain groups of people. And I think this is one of the problems of Catholic universities, is that they're trying to be impressive to people that Catholic universities should not be impressive to. And because they're doing so, they're failing to be impressive to the people who they should be trying to be impressive to. And so they end up being impressive to no one, trying to be impressive to everyone. There's a marketer, a marketing guru, I guess you could call him, who I like listening to and reading. His name is Seth Godin. And he talks about a key concept in business that applies, in to life in general. And he says that when we create a business, when we start a business, we should not be thinking of trying to reach as many people as possible. We should not be trying to grow our audience as far and wide as possible. What we should really be thinking about is what specifically is our mission? And what is the smallest viable market that will support our mission? And this concept of the smallest viable market is the key to success in any undertaking, any mission-oriented undertaking, like a business or an apostolate as a Catholic, so on. What is the smallest viable market? What that means is, what would the smallest audience be that would support this work, that would make this work possible? What's the smallest possible market? So, for example, with me in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, I know, I'm not stupid, I know that 99% of parents in the world today and students in the world today are not going to be interested in studying the classical liberal arts, Aristotelian philosophy, scholastic theology, and so on. I know that. My mission is to research, restore, publish, and teach the classical liberal arts. That's the mission of the Classical Liberal Arts Academy. And therefore, with that mission in mind, and only that mission, my question is, what is the smallest viable market that I can focus on? And I know who those people are. They're people who appreciate things I appreciate, who do things I do, who like things I like. I know who those people are. And they're my focus. And I don't try to impress people or attract people that I know don't share or support my mission. And this is one of the reasons why the CLA has been self-sustaining and successful and continues to grow little by little with real, organic, sustainable growth. I know what the mission is. The mission is very clear, and I know who the audience is that's interested in our mission. I know what our smallest viable market is, and we stay focused on that audience and focused on our mission. And there are temptations all the time. People contact me all the time asking if I'd do this, or if I'd expand and do this, or offer this, or accept students like this, and I say no, I'm not interested in doing that, because in order to succeed in pursuing our mission, we need to focus on the smallest viable market. And Catholic colleges and universities don't do that. They're just casting their net out into the open sea and trying to catch prospective students without appearing to really understand who their audience is and what their mission is, and focusing on serving the smallest viable market with the best possible service. Mission-oriented education designed and intended for a specific audience. You can see that they're not doing that. They're talking about AP math classes and biology classes and community college classes transferring and they're just lost at sea, trying to catch any fish, trying to figure out what fish are around the boat and what they want, instead of going out to catch a specific kind of fish with a specific kind of lure. And they end up catching nothing, or they catch things that nobody really wants. This is how it feels when I visit a Catholic college, and I visited a number of them. When I'm there, when I'm in the facilities talking to the faculty and administration, I feel like this is an organization that doesn't really have a mission and is just grasping at the wind, trying to please everyone, and in the end, pleasing no one. Seth Godin again explains that when we try to please everyone, the only way that you can please everyone is by sanding off all of your sharp edges, all of your distinctives, because our distinctives divide the audience. For example, if I say that I'm a Roman Catholic, I immediately cut the audience of interested families in half. All the Protestant families get up and leave by me saying this is a Catholic study program. So I have the choice to cut that pointy edge off and file it down smooth, and not cut that audience into pieces, or leave it and say, no, I actually want to cut the audience into pieces because I'm focused on a specific audience. I'm interested in serving Catholic students with Catholic education. And not just Catholic education, I'm interested in serving classical education to Catholic students. That's another sharp edge that divides the audience. And we just keep going with more and more dividing, narrowing edges, as it were, that appeal to a smaller and smaller number of people. Now, we don't want to go too small, because then we can't exist. It would be unsustainable. And that's why we've got to understand what the smallest viable market is for our mission. And when we look at a Catholic university, we'll see things like, admissions policies that say, announce boldly on the admissions pages on the website, all faiths welcome. And that sounds good. So, we're thinking like we could have Jewish students, Muslim students, Hindu students, Buddhist students. But the problem with this is the market, the real audience for the Catholic University is Catholic students. And if I'm going to choose a Catholic university, I really don't want to go to a school that now has to serve Jewish students and Muslim students and Buddhist students. Because in order to do that, it's got to sand off its distinctive edges and make itself this smooth ball that doesn't divide the audience. And what we need in a Catholic university is for the university to do the opposite, to say, we're a Catholic university. Everything we do is designed to help and benefit Catholic students who need Catholic instruction, Catholic support, Catholic pastoral ministry, Catholic culture, Catholic society, Catholic friends, and so on. That's what makes it valuable. But instead, it's trying to just cast its admissions nets into the open sea and accept anything that ends up in the net. And that's just not a mission. It's not a plan. And that's why the schools become just these sort of vanilla, boring, mediocre institutions that no one's going to donate $10 million to vanilla college that's serving a mixed student body, a mixed curriculum with no real distinctives. That's just not how it works. To have a zealous community of supporters and donors and students and alumni, there's got to be distinctives that people look at that university and say, that's my alma mater. That's the place that taught me how to be a Catholic. And it's still faithful and strong. It's still marked by its distinctives. And that's why I still support it. It's a unique place. It has a specific mission. It's important. And we see Catholic colleges and universities abandoning that. For example, here in the Charlotte Diocese in North Carolina, there's Belmont Abbey College. They're involved in some massive hospital project. A few years back, they introduced a program, again, Belmont Abbey. Yes, there's an abbey. There are Benedictine monks there. Belmont Abbey College offering a degree program in auto racing management. Who needs that from a Catholic college? Who needs that? But this is what I think Catholic colleges do. They just don't trust in Catholicism, and that if they would go all in on Catholicism and be great Catholic colleges, great Catholic universities that are great at Catholic stuff, that they'd be valuable and that they'd have a strong, albeit small, viable market. Now, when we look at a school like Catholic University, I don't know if this is accurate, but I think I saw that there are 3,000 students. That's a small school. Rutgers University, I think it was over 50,000 students. Catholic University is more like the size of Harvard. Now, there are 70 million Catholics in America. And Catholic University draws from an international community. There's 1 billion Catholics in the world and 3,000 students. How does it not have a selective choice of, let's say, the top 750 incoming freshman Catholic students every year. How is it not selective? There's no demand for it. It's obviously not very popular. People aren't growing up aspiring to go to Catholic university. And that's a mission problem. And because people are not growing up thinking about, dreaming about going to Catholic university in Washington, D.C., there's no demand on the admissions department. There's no pressure. There's no competition. And they end up, like I said, admitting 86% of the applicants. And we can just see something's wrong there. Now, again, what I said is I believe that this corruption of the modern Catholic university is ultimately caused by the decline of K-12 education. I think it's partly caused by trying to make students specialize when they're in high school instead of getting a broad, rich, cultured education. Having a bunch of ignorant, uncultured teenagers decide that they're going to become specialists is a recipe for misery. What they should be focused on when they're young is establishing a religious and philosophical foundation for their life. They should be learning the classical liberal arts. They should be learning the arts of grammar and logic and rhetoric and arithmetic and geometry, music, astronomy, the arts that serve the human life, universal arts that apply to all different fields. Any time spent on those arts is time well spent because it will be useful. They should be studying history. They should be studying literature. They should be learning philosophy. Not some goofy history of philosophy like in a modern college, but they should be studying Aristotelian, scholastic philosophy and really getting into it, making progress. They should be introduced to modern mathematics. They should be introduced to the modern natural sciences. But they shouldn't be talking about specializing. They shouldn't be trying to study those subjects at a college level, because college is college and high school is high school. And they haven't gotten a good high school education yet. And they should leave college for college and get a good high school education. Now, my mission in education is to improve preparatory education. This is my life mission. When I was in college, I was a top student, straight A's, Phi Beta Kappa, graduating at Rutgers University, and I had the opportunity to continue in graduate school studying classics or education, whatever I wanted to do. I had a teaching fellowship opportunity that was being offered to me. But as I thought about what I really want to do with my life, I said, no, I really don't think that the problem is here at the university level. I don't think the problem is here. I don't think the problem is that the university needs better teachers, and I really don't think this is where the problem is. I said the problem is that students in grades K through 12 are not learning things that they should be learning when they should learn them. It's all being pushed back into college years, and it's just not responsible. If we look at a college like Thomas Aquinas College out in California, they've got kids studying high school courses in college, and they'll say things like, oh, well, kids can't study these things before. It's just totally false. They did all through history. Kids didn't wait until they were 18, 19, 20 to study Latin grammar or get started with philosophy or get started with the liberal arts. That's not even true. Universities started when kids were 14 years old in the Middle Ages. And so what they're saying is just not true. These studies belong earlier in the kids' educational careers. For example, one of the schools, there are two pontifical universities or colleges in America. One is Catholic University. The other, I think, is a seminary that was started in Ohio. I don't want to guess the name of it because I'm afraid I'm going to get it wrong. But it was started as what's called a minor seminary. And the minor seminary basically started with high school kids in their last 2 years of high school, so juniors and seniors, and then it went up into college and seminary study. But the minor seminary started with 15-year-olds. It didn't start with 23 or 24-year-olds. And again, this is the problem in modern education. We're not challenging kids who are 10, 12, 14, 16 years old. We're not challenging them. We're not even preparing the content for them. We're not preparing a quality curriculum for them. We're not preparing the subjects to be taught to them when they're younger. We're just treating them like a bunch of stupid babies and saying that every challenging study can just wait until college. And that's just irresponsible and really impracticable. And so they end up just completely neglecting these studies. So we can see that there's a number of problems. But as I said, when I was finishing my undergraduate studies, I had a very clear vision of what I wanted to do. I wanted to take the classical studies that I was learning as a young adult, because I didn't convert until I was 18, didn't get serious about education until I was in college, began studying classical studies. And as I was studying, I kept saying to myself, why are we not teaching this to 14-year-old boys? Why are we not teaching this to teenagers? Why is this reserved for the college classics department? Kids need to study these things when they're young. Aesop's fables were not intended to be studied by adults. The writings of moral philosophers, even scholastic theology, was not intended to be hidden from Catholic students until they were 22 years old. Catholic students should be studying sacred scripture, the catechism, moral philosophy. They should be studying logic and rhetoric and classical languages. They should be studying history and literature and the fine arts when they're young. And we're not doing that. And so we've got immature, intellectually unformed, ignorant 18-year-olds making bad vocational decisions, unprepared for studies appropriate for college. And then we've got the colleges dumbing down their programs to try and serve these ignorant, immature young adults, and just the whole thing is self-destructing. Now, while I say there's problems in modern colleges and universities, I said I don't believe it's the fault of those colleges and universities. The only fault I see in the colleges and universities is allowing this to happen. Colleges and universities should look at K-12 schools and say, we're not admitting your graduates unless you give them a rich, mature education and have them ready at age 18 to hit the ground running in a college environment with college professors in college studies. If you don't get the kids to the level that we decide is appropriate, we're not admitting your students. That's what Catholic colleges and universities should do. And they should force Catholic K-12 schools to improve. What I'm seeking to do in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy is make that improvement, even though I'm not getting encouraged or challenged to do so by Catholic colleges and universities. Rather, I'm writing and speaking to Catholic colleges and universities saying, you've got to raise the bar. You've got to be the one who makes the change. You've got to become more selective. You've got to figure out what your mission is as an institution and determine what your smallest viable market is. And you've got to commit to it. And trust that if you commit to it, things will improve. It's a risk to take, but it's a risk that's needed. K-12 schools need to be challenged to get better and to raise the bar, to raise the standards, to raise more mature, intellectually formed 18-year-old graduates. And colleges have to be running by the time those kids get on campus with rigorous programs. And so as far as I'm concerned, improving K-12 education, which is what I'm doing in the academy, is going to make it possible for Catholic colleges and universities to improve. Now, the issue for me is that if Catholic colleges and universities are not going to improve, then people like me who have access to students graduating from high school can just start their own colleges and say, we don't want to take our students who have now worked to get themselves to a high level of study to now go to dum-dum college where they're going to be grouped with a bunch of non-Catholics who are public school graduates who aren't ready for college, and they're going to sit around staring at the wall, bored, because they've got to take basic general education classes instead of classes that they're ready for, that are appropriate for university studies. If the Catholic colleges and universities are not going to become more selective and raise the standards of college education, then it's going to be better for the academies raising great young adults to just start their own colleges because they'll already have the students. And so Catholic colleges are going to be in a difficult place where they've either got to reform and improve, or they're going to become obsolete. Because no one's going to spend $50,000 a year at Catholic University to get a high school education and have a degree with student loans that does not prepare them for success in the market. It's just become a useless endeavor. The college has to take it seriously that their degree has to mean readiness for gainful engagement in the market. They've got to know that they've got to have students ready for the market when they receive their degree. And they need to realize that in order for them to do that, they've got to have kids coming in at a higher level, hitting the ground running. And that's why admissions is so important. The admissions teams have to say, no, we cannot admit low-quality students because low-quality freshmen become low-quality seniors, and they cause our degrees to be useless. And if the colleges don't do this, like I said, if the colleges don't do this, all of these programs starting online schools and programs, accreditation is going to online programs. They're just going to start their own college programs. So it's a time for Catholic colleges and universities, and this is my desire. I hope that they change. I hope especially the Catholic University changes becomes selective and more serious about Catholic education, tries not to be all things to all people educationally, but tries to be a great Catholic institution of higher education, a great research university for Catholic students. It's got to raise its admission standards. It's got to raise the caliber of its courses and programs and professors. It's got to raise the value of its degrees. And it's got to say to the K-12 schools, look, this is where the front door is. If you can't get kids to this level, they can't come. And we'll find them or we'll raise them elsewhere. Because we can raise better kids, and the standards don't need to be accepted. But we've got to commit to raise the bar. And then we've all got to work to make it happen. In the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, we're going to see over the next 5-6 years, we're going to raise the bar for K-12 studies. And we're going to be preparing 18-year-old students who are going to be ready to be challenged by great Catholic colleges and universities. And I just hope they exist, or else we're going to have to make our own. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. God bless.